Hey, Kansas Helen here, and today I have Taylor Moreland has come back to discuss her primary for Kansas House District 7, which is where, Taylor?
Parson, Chanute, their area, Altamont,
So it's rural. It's a rural district in
rural
Kansas.
southeast Kansas. Yep.
Yeah, and you've been going at this since September of 2025.
Yep.
Yep,
Yes, I filed very early.
very early. Yeah, I'm gonna be one of the earliest. Once this is all over and I have a minute, I'm gonna look at things like that just because. Because I like data and facts. I don't know. I'm just curious who was the people like things like that, like the top three, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, so how's it? How do you feel about things? How's it been going? What have you been hearing out there as you're knocking doors and running now in a primary? Whereas last time I talked to you, I don't even think you had an opponent at all yet.
No, I didn't at that point. It's been fun. And I always tell people if I've made a ton of new connections and still insight. If I were to lose, this will not be my last time running because this is something, it really means something to
Yeah.
me. I'm taking my experiences and wanting to take them higher so I can do more. So that's been great. I've came to new people that I never would have met, learned about things I never would have learned about. It's like I always say, I did not grow up in an agriculture type home, anything like that. I didn't go to like Altamont. Their high school is more agriculturally focused than my high school, Parsons was. But I grew up around it. And I think anybody that's in Kansas, we know that agriculture is Kansas. It's the base of our state. And I didn't know a lot about it, but like I always tell people, if I don't know about it, I will get to know about it if it's something that matters. So it's nice to have conversations with people who lived on rural farms, who have their own rural farms that they operate now. And that's probably been the funnest part for me, just getting to know that area because I wasn't familiar with it. That's something that's important for lawmakers to you're making laws about all Kansans, not just particularly in the communities you're in. So you need to know things that you're not interested in or may never need to have involvement in. So that's been a highlight for sure. Just the conversations, even about the things I do know about. It's always nice to hear different points of views because sometimes we'll share the same view, but maybe disagree on a couple of things or have a different idea of how we meet that goal.
Yeah. Do you feel like I grew up in the big city, so it's like the big city of Wichita, comparatively speaking. I've never really lived a rural life, but now helping with Caden's campaign, where it's like he's got a little bit of South Wichita, a little bit of North Derby, and then rural. And so it's just a mix of everything. And
Mhm.
so it's like I've had to learn and understand each different district's people myself. Caden knows them and can blend into all of them and understands all of them, but I didn't. And if I'm trying to help him, and yeah, it's everybody wants the same thing. I know it's cliche to say, but everybody has the same kind of complaint. They just mainly have different solutions. They all agree that the homeless people are a problem, like this shouldn't be happening and that the city needs to do something, but they just disagree on the cause and the solution.
Yeah. And I think that's a great example because like you said, it's cliche, but a big part of my campaign has been hoping to be able to work across the aisle. Like you said, we all generally share the same goal. We just have completely different ideas of how to meet that goal.
They are like at the city level, especially, but and some of the state level, they are doing what the people that voted for them in the majority want. They are doing the solution their people are saying to do in mass. They all agree that this is how we should handle things. Some of the voters want, like, how do you fix that? I don't know what issues are out there in Does Parsons have like homeless people problem?
Yeah, we I wouldn't say a huge problem. I'm actually on the board at our local homeless shelter. I'm very
Mm.
proud to serve as the president. And so, in that role, even before that role, through my nonprofit, it opened my eyes to how big of a problem homelessness actually is in the community. I think a lot of people maybe don't realize when we see some of these people around town often, it's we're seeing them so often because they don't have a place to live. So we definitely have that issue. It's nice to have a like direct resource here in Parsons. We don't always have to help somebody leave the community.
Mm.
I will say, I do think just through my research and looking for solutions to homelessness through my nonprofit, I see that areas like Wichita, Kansas City areas, heck, even Joplin, Missouri, which is 45 minutes from here, the cities play a big role in supporting the homeless shelter. And that's why they're able to be so successful. And when I say supporting, I don't mean like a grant. They pay for the whole thing year round. They offer some kind of contribution that does more than make ends meet for places. I know at our local homeless shelter, we're able to get grants type things from the city, but go so fast when you're caring for people and keeping your home up to date and things like that. So I do want to see the city and even the county play a more direct role in helping nonprofits fight these problems. It shouldn't all be on small nonprofits. We are in the process of doing restructuring. Like I mentioned, it's a nonprofit. So we're just expected to solicit donations, apply for grants, things like that. And at first I was fine with that. That's how it had been running. But then it hit me. I was like, no, this is something that needs to be in on it. Just
Mhm.
be when we come request a grant. Like in other places, the city's tax revenue funds their homeless shelters. And if that's not possible, you can't tell me that a $2,000 commitment a month or something is impossible. Like we should be getting, and not just us, like all cities, towns, everything should be getting support for those necessary human services from the city
Yeah,
government.
just the bare minimum you need to run
Yeah,
the operation. And then anything you get over that can be special things that you do or extra things you get to do, but just the bare minimum that you need to give people shelter at night when they need it
yeah,
should come from the city and the state and the
yeah,
county. That's the thing. We have all these different things, the city, the county, the state. They all
mhm,
have the money.
yeah. But
They're just
supposedly nobody can do anything.
the city of Wichita spends, it's hard to get the calculations because you can't, they don't track how many police hours are being spent on it. They don't track how many park and rec hours are being spent on it, how many people's administrative stuff at the city is being spent dealing with homeless encampments and paying invoices to the entire cost to the taxpayer that goes into destroying a homeless encampment. All you can really find is the cost for the third party contractor they pay to do it, and then maybe some legal stuff and things like that. But when you start factoring in the total cost of the AP, the AR, the city manager's cost, the police and the parks and rec workers, and all the costs that are involved in the criminalization and camping ordinance and all that, it is at least $1.5 million, probably $2 million a year that they're
Mhm,
spending to do nothing of value.
yeah,
I'm telling you, the contractor that's doing it's making money. He's profiting
yeah,
off of it, that's for sure.
definitely.
It's the only one that's helped. He's the only one that, on the new police officers they're hiring and stuff, they got jobs now, so they're profiting off of it. But otherwise, it's not helping anyone. It's not helping the homeless people. It's not helping the people that want something done about the homeless people, that whether they're supportive of them or not, it's not helping anyone. It's just throwing money away that
Yeah,
could actually just house people. So what I want to do is come up with some sort of plan that I want to find some things that the city has recently, it has to be the people that are on board now, has spent a bunch of money on, and then come up with a plan of how that could have been used to provide housing. And just be like, instead of a failing baseball stadium, maybe we could have had housing. Honestly, the best thing they can do, and not that it's going to help the people directly right now, but the best thing they can do is offer more help with stopping them from being homeless in the first place when they start to get in trouble. Because I've been very close there many times in my life, and there's not any help out there. And then multiple times I've had to just call my brother Billy, who I never talk to, and just be like, hey, Billy, because he's got money. And so if I ever called him for money, he'd give me some, like a few $100s was no big deal to him, but it was always a last resort. But if I didn't have Billy, what would I have done? So it's
Yeah, and I
like,
think that's the reality for a lot of people.
I was just homeless. This whole time I've been homeless. I don't know. I haven't really talked about it a lot because I was ashamed and I was trying to be out here and be professional and stuff. But April of last year until November, I lived in a camper in the driveway of my daughter's house. And it was mostly just because their house really wasn't that big. And then we had 2 dogs and 2 cats in there with us and stuff. It was supposed to be temporary until I was going to come to Topeka and get a job. And then it just took longer to get a job than I thought it would be. And then they finally, we were like, let's just move. It's working out as being all together with the kids and stuff. So we'll just get a bigger house so you guys can move in there. But I still technically am considered homeless by some organizations because I can't afford a home on my own,
Yeah, and I
which
think that's a very like common situation. It really is,
I
and
know.
it's ridiculous that it is so common. Me being as young as I am, if my dad wasn't there in times that I needed, a bill was way more extra than normal, or God forbid, a hospital payment, things like that. If he hadn't been there to help with that, catch that rent up when I had to pay for something else, I would have definitely been in a tight situation, getting groceries, things like that. And that's, young people shouldn't have to rely on our parents and things like that. It's very hard to be
Old
self
people,
sufficient
old
these
people who've
days.
worked their whole lives shouldn't have to rely on their children and their son-in-law when they're not
Yeah,
old yet. Oh,
yeah.
I'm like,
And our
I'm 50.
government,
This shouldn't have happened for another 20 years.
yeah, the government should not look past, like you said, older generations have worked their whole lives. Like, why is the government allowing them to struggle? That makes no sense. Everybody's just struggling.
30 years I worked, 30 years. I'm working again now part-time, but, and I do like, the thing is like this Kansas Helen thing, the exposing Wichita thing that I'm doing and the stuff I'm helping with the campaigns that I seem to be decently good at. I really enjoy. It costs me money and it doesn't, I don't make any money in any of this stuff at all. And so it's unfortunate that I can't just get paid to be doing all this stuff. I spend 40, I've probably averaged 40 to 60 hours a week on all my things for a year now. So for no money.
Yeah,
And I don't even care if I get money, but they care if I have money because I have to have money to have the house.
yeah. And that's, it's like an issue with small businesses. I would consider what you do a small business, a self-made.
Oh, it's gonna be a Schedule C on my tax return as a loss, that's for sure.
Yeah, and it shouldn't cost people so much money to even start up their business, because we yell, be independent, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, whatever. And how you want us to spend thousands just to even secure a license to open a small business type thing, and how are people supposed to live the American dream?
So I really want you to win. And I think that you're, like I said, you are exactly the kind of person that should be in running our government, because that's one thing I've been trying to explain to people about, like Kansas House people, right? Yeah, there's 125 of them, but their votes impact the entire state. And
Yes.
when they're so wrapped up in get the next election and pleasing their voters in their district and not thinking about how their vote's going to impact people outside of their district, good or bad, right? Something could be super good. I can't think about it right now, but an example, I would say maybe even like the greater good, like a data center, right? Might be good for their little area, but really impact this area over here that doesn't want it. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so I just think that it's a problem as a whole, as a society, sometimes in some places, for them to think about that greater good. Think about the people that are going to be impacted by this when they're not impacted by it, right? Until something happens to them, they don't seem to care about it.
And that's the problem with our lawmakers. We need more people that have just been everyday people, not lifetime politicians or people who have been millionaires, been in Nepo babies, things like that. We need people who are willing to do the work and reach out not just to these big corporations and hotshot names. We need people that will do what I've seen a lot of young candidates doing across the state, across the nation, which is door knocking on 100-degree days, independently doing their marketing and voter outreach. I know out of the thousands of texts and calls my campaign has made, maybe 10 of them was not me. So that's it's hard work, but that's what we need. It's not we're supposed to prove ourselves to the voters. They don't owe us anything.
You need to
We're supposed to prove it to
earn their
them.
vote. Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think that's what you were talking about before, about earning the vote, about liking the primary, because now if you win, you know that you won because you won.
Yes.
If you would have made it through this whole thing never with opposition, everyone would have been like, she never had any opposition.
You didn't earn it. Yeah. I want people to understand that I'm not doing this because I'm Taylor Moreland or because I just, oh, it's a title to get. It was real life experiences that made me jump up and say, I hate these freaking laws. Why are these people not? And then you get to looking in their backgrounds and you're like, none of these people represent me or have walked in even a relative journey as I have. So I don't want that. I want people I can call and feel like I'm talking to another person, not I have to be prim and proper and fancy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, decorum. Dear sir, I would
Yeah,
like to request I would like to request that you not destroy my tent. I really
yeah,
have nowhere else to go. Thank you so much.
yeah. I never want people to feel like that with me. I
Yeah.
love, as weird as it sounds, I love when I'm talking to a voter and they cuss. They're like, this effing pisses me off. I want
Yeah.
people to be comfortable enough to say that because that's what I would want to tell a lawmaker if they were giving me all this fancy talk. I'm like, I don't effing know what you're saying. Relate to me. Be a person, not a robot. So I never, this may sound completely ignorant. I never realized how much our small farms and ranches are struggling. We look around Kansas and we have the produce, we have this and that, but it's not coming from the places it should. But it's not coming. Yeah, I don't feel like it's. We should look around and say, "I'm so proud. This came from a farm, a city away from me." What I like is being able, like our kids here, through at least USD 503. I know for sure the lunches and things they have. A good part of them come from directly from farms and ranches here and in Kansas. It would be even cooler to see that be more of a regular thing. I don't want to say requirement because we all know lawmakers love to make requirements and not give us resources
Mhm.
to enact those requirements. But eventually, maybe it could be. And our local schools are fed by our local farms and ranches. And I don't think that dream is as unobtainable as it may feel
Yeah.
for a lot of rural farmers and things right now. From
It's
the outside looking in, it seems simple. And I think it's not going to be simple, but I think it could be simpler if people got out and learned.
Yeah, Rashana Grant has this idea to, and I'm probably not going to express it properly, but it's basically like giving tax breaks, grants, and things like that to more, not necessarily urban farms, but not
Yes.
necessarily rural either. People that have, like here where I live, if we bought this and bought next door, we'd have 3 lots. We have a lot of space. So if I built a small community garden or I had some chickens or whatever, they could support that, at least with grants and things to get it going, with education to keep it going, things like that. And then you get property tax breaks for the growing of the food and whatever
Yes.
you're doing in your land. Nothing crazy, because we're talking about I'm in the middle of Topeka, but it's I've looked into doing it, right? But it is an expensive endeavor to get into, even if you try to do it as cheaply and as sustainably with reusing things as possible. And it's a lot to learn on your own.
Yeah.
So just supporting things like that with somehow would be
Yeah.
beneficial.
And that's along the lines. We always preach grants and incentives, tax breaks. We give that a lot to big, like you said, urban farms. We're not doing enough for the people on down the road here from Parsons in Altamont, in Thayer, even here in the outskirts of Parsons and Chanute. Like, I don't know. I just feel like the backbone is the small farmers and ranchers from generations ago. So I don't like that we're taking it out of their hands.
I think that it's because a lot of the people in power have a financial gain from these corporate farms coming in and buying them up. So they let the little guy fail so the big guy can win and they get more money.
And that's definitely what it's looking like.
And that kind of thinking and that kind of thing goes all the way down to the city level.
Yes.
And so it's like sometimes they say, I have experience doing this or I have a degree in that. And all that tells me is that you've always been studying how to play the game and planning to do what you're doing right now. And some people see that as a benefit. I don't think that's a good thing.
Yes.
I think part of the problem is, I was going to say earlier, the diverse candidates that are diverse. And I don't just mean that have lived diverse lives. I don't necessarily mean race or gender or whatever. They've lived diverse lives. They've lived lives that maybe they're not ordinary people per se, right?
Yeah.
That have lived multiple experiences in life and been through different things, that intimately understand things that some people wouldn't. You know what I'm saying? Caden, he's an everyday person for everyday people, but I don't know, maybe it's my opinion, but I don't think he's just an everyday person personally. He's always been an extraordinarily helpful, outgoing, kind person. Do you know what I mean? And then you have some candidates that have never been involved with any sort of outreach or trying to help anyone or any of the mutual aids or nonprofits or any of that stuff before, but suddenly a year before or leading up to or after they file, they're suddenly all involved and doing videos and taking photos and, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like people that have already been advocates, bare minimum, even if they haven't lived the life of the people that have already been involved in their community, like in a way that's not just a government thing, like going to DAB meetings or city council meetings, or like actually doing the work in the community
Yeah.
to advocate and help for people. Because if they're going to do that, then they're already doing it. Let's just send them up there so they can do it for real.
Yeah. And all the things, one thing that will really, I'll keep close to my mind and heart if I do lose this primary, I'm already doing everything I want to do. I'm already doing the civic service I want to do. I just want to do it at a level statewide so I can help people all over Kansas the way I help people in my community.
Are
A
you
big reason for my nonprofit was to help fill those gaps I don't feel like the city is pouring into as much as they should, like domestic violence issues, homelessness, even just supporting nonprofits. I wanted to be able to fill those gaps.
Yeah, I had so many thoughts. Where to start? Yeah, I think that a lot of people don't want to have a plan for if they lose because they feel like it's being negative or something. But I see it more of even more of an attribute that you're already planning how you can keep, maybe not building a political career, but use the momentum you have built to keep pushing, right? To keep pushing for the causes that you care that much about. And you've probably made connections now for that purpose and gained experience and knowledge of how the system works. That's very important. I'd
Yeah,
be able to carry with you.
before I filed, I did about a year before I started to get really pissed off about the laws within the foster care system. It just really started to tick me off. So I started reaching out to legislators, and I went all the way to the governor. And Laura Kelly, she never let me speak with her, but she did send the deputy secretary of DCF to speak with me. And this was probably my first year at my job. And when you enter this line of work, you just feel like you're going to change the world. And I feel like that conversation was the start of nothing. It was to pacify somebody who wrote an angry, passionate letter to the governor. That's what I don't like. I want people who want to listen to these things. And so I made sure to get involved with legislative actions. I watched the committee meetings. I reached out to specifically Representative Cindy Howerton, the chairwoman of the Child Welfare Committee. I had multiple conversations with her. I did all of that before filing, and it's something I'll continue to do. I don't have to be a lawmaker to help change the laws or advocate for it. It's
You just
going to
have to not
suck,
back down.
definitely. Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's one thing I've learned through this.
Yeah. That's what happened to Caden essentially, is that he started having questions for his representative and he got replied to with kind of snarkiness to an email. And then he commented something on Facebook that was very well thought out and just wasn't insulting or anything. And Carpenter reacted at it. And that's when Caden was like, you know what, Helen, I'm going to run. Let's do this. Because I'd been trying to get him to run for a minute. That's pretty much what happened. Is he was like, this guy doesn't care to hear from me. He's not representing me. Nobody I know can tell you who their representative is. He's not representing the people or connecting with them, at least. I can do a better job than this guy. And that's kind of what I was talking about when I first started this. And I was talking to people about how if you really just get to know your representative, you're probably going to think, this guy, I can do a better job than this guy or gal. If you have a problem with them.
Yeah.
Because it's just, they're not in for the right reasons. And it's pretty obvious when you start looking.
Yeah. It's sometimes it feels like it's right in your face. And I don't know, as a candidate, everyone likes to kind of throw shots at each other, point out what they don't like publicly. And I've just never wanted to do that. We can debate all day about our views on policies. I don't care what you do in your off time, if that makes sense. I'm not going to run a smear campaign. I'm not going to try to discredit you for things like that. And I really try to stand strong in that, because if I get elected and I just go to the state house and I'm like, I'm not listening or working with any Republicans, where are we going to get? Nowhere. So I don't run that kind of campaign. If the Republican opponent, me and him, we chat sometimes at our Rotary Club meetings, things like that. I may not like anything he stands for, maybe, but you got to learn to live together somehow.
Yeah.
And that goes
All I do is look at their voting record and where their money comes from. And this goes for either party. And so I look at where their money comes from. I look at what they do when they're not in session. What are they doing when they're not in session? That's a big thing. If there's an incumbent, it makes it a lot easier to make a decision. Or if there's somebody that has had some sort of political career, or even if they haven't, like when they're brand new, I'm like, what's your history? Your history as a social worker? Oh, that's good. What makes you think you can do anything? And I just think that the why are you running thing, and then what they do when they're at home. Who are they having meetings? Are they having town halls? Are they reaching out to their constituents and asking them what they think of the session and what they did wrong and what could they have done better.
Yes.
No one's asking. And it's on both sides. Kelly moved an entire department without talking to the department. And the governor before, Brownback, was it Brownback before Kelly? Yeah, Brownback moved them, and then Kelly came in and moved them somewhere else. And didn't even talk to them. Which just like, that doesn't make sense. It didn't make sense. It didn't make sense for them to be where Brownback had moved them. Their bucket of money, basically, is what it is in their heads, right? Their little spreadsheet, and they're going to copy and paste. Now that belongs under here. And so Kelly came in and didn't like it either, which was fine. They all agreed we needed to be in a different place, but the decision of where to put them, their opinion, not even the department heads' opinions were asked, which I was shocked that how could you make the decision of where they need to go without talking to those people?
Changing people's lives and knowing nothing about it.
Moving an entire couple hundred people's jobs over, which is it's a small department. It's not a very big one, and it's one the Republicans would like to go away, I'm sure. But I'm just saying, it's just ridiculous that they wouldn't bring them to the table. So I told Cindy Holscher, I'm gonna hold her to it too, because she did it publicly. I made a video and I was like, please promise me you will never do that to a department, that you will at least listen to the heads, bring them in, have a meeting or something. It's just, I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. That happens to me so much. I'm just like, they do what now?
Yeah, I think it's all of us.
I became very interested in rural districts, in rural areas, and what it was really like out there. That's how I ended up doing 125, is because I'm like, what's going on out there? Because they don't seem to be voting in their best interest. Why are they not voting in their best interest? And then, so I got involved, and then I started seeing like all the suicides, and there was an auction, and it wasn't in Kansas, but it was in, I think it might've been in Missouri. So close enough. And the lady was sitting there and she was like, that's from a suicide. That's from a suicide. It pointed out 5 different things that had come in from 5 different farmer suicides in that area. And I was like, what is going on in rural Kansas then? And then I looked into it, and it's a problem.
Yeah. And I don't think people realize that. That's disgusting, that lawmakers and their choices can make people's lives so hellacious that they do that. That's something I haven't looked into specifically.
Well,
and I think that's an important connection to make.
It's because a lot of them are older men and they don't handle things well. And then the biggest thing is, like I talked about how I worked for 30 years and I lost everything. But a lot of these people, it wasn't just them. It was their father and their grandfather, and the family farms have been in the farm forever, and they're about to lose everything that their whole entire people worked for. And they don't blame the government, they blame themselves, because that's how the society has taught us to think, is individualistically, and everything is our own personal failure, and there's not systematic things happening to anybody. Anyone can succeed if they really want to. So it's a failure, and it's a failure that, and they know that imminently everything's going to be taken away.
Yeah. And
it's just more than they can handle. They can't see it. They can't bear to see all of their generations and generations of work be taken over by a corporation that has no respect, love, or connection to the land.
Exactly.
So I get it.
Yeah.
I've looked into it. I drove out to 110 and talked to Mark Shakowitz that's running out there. And then I walked around and looked at Plainview is in Wichita, and a cute little town. And you could really see they were starting to make it nice, and then they lost that money, and they're just fighting to survive. The city itself is about the rural people that always have to worry about becoming unincorporated. Dun, dun, dun. And I don't think people seem to understand the resources you lose when you become unincorporated.
Yeah. And I
And
know I was one of those people just driving through a rural area a few years ago when I was younger and had no interest in things like this. I was like, what is an unincorporated town? And then you Google it and you're like, oh my God. You start to see bad things in your town and you're like, oh no, this is how that happened to them. So it's a shocking reality.
they don't have any real representation, right?
Yeah.
They might get to vote for a county commissioner, but they don't have city, they have a state rep, but they usually put so many of those little things together that their state rep actually lives way over here and has nothing to do with them. Yeah, they're just little towns trying to survive because they don't have a grocery store, they don't have any of these things. And Plainville's only 20 miles from Hayes too, when they're usually that close to another source. They usually let them go.
Yeah.
Which is a shame.
It is.
And it goes back to the rural areas being bought up by corporations, though, because what used to happen is you had these large, wealthy kind of landowners that ran the ranches and ran the farms, the bigger ones. They had family names, and they were very concerned about keeping them good, and they would put their names on buildings and make them nice. They would renovate downtown and get a plaque or whatever it was. And then as they went away and as that more and more got bought up by corporations that could care less about any of that, they could care less that little towns there. They had no roots to the land. Again, those things stopped happening. The money went away. Just comes down to corporations and rich people again.
Yeah.
It really
Yeah.
does.
It
We've got
always
to get
does.
we've got to get money out. People have just got to start paying attention to people's campaign finances and who's giving them money, because it just keeps proving itself right over and over that whoever you take money from, that's who you end up making decisions for when push comes to shove.
Yeah.
So far, it's what I've seen. That's the pattern recognition happening in my brain.
And it makes sense. Yeah. Know who people are willing to accept money from. It shows. It shows a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think that I know that when they get up there and especially if you're talking about sending them to Washington, because I've looked at the campaign finances, right? And some of these incumbents have been in there for 10 years. And when they first started doing it, the 97% of their donations were from individuals. It was the bulk of the money they got. And then every cycle that shift more and more. And especially like the Kansas House level, it doesn't take very long if they're in there for a long time for the bulk of their money to start pretty much coming from PACs and the party, and not just or people that have enough to give them the max each cycle and all that stuff. Not just 25, 30, 40, $50 things. They do at the beginning, it's like that. And then as soon as they start getting that PAC money or the other money, it appears they stop caring about anything else. And some people say it's good because then you're not getting $25 from some guy that may not have $25. But to me, I'd rather have $25 donations than one $100 donation.
Yes. And I'm glad my donations have come from people and not, gosh, I can't even fathom like getting in touch with a PAC. But yeah, I feel like if you're earning people's votes, that's what makes them want to donate. I don't
Yeah.
want to be bought out by corporations. Think that.
Not all PACs are bad. You just have to look into the PAC. And then, but if it's a energy PAC, that like, it just feels like a bribe. I don't even know how it's legal. How
Yeah.
should Evergy get to donate to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if most of their money is coming from corporations and businesses, and even if you look at their individual donors, if it's coming from Cokes or Ruffins or the rich people, the movers and the shakers, the developers, the rich developers, because here's the thing, a rich developer has 15 LLCs. Each LLC plus his personal one can donate $1,000 to a Kansas House race. It looks like 15 individual businesses, but if you look into those 15 individual businesses, you'll see they're all owned by that one guy. And he got to donate $30,000 if he wanted. He has 15. So it's crazy. And then they do it at that's a real big problem at the city level too, is these developers. And then when you try to call out the Democrats even for doing it that were running, they said, I voted against multiple LLCs being able to do that and it didn't pass. So if they get to do it, I should get to do it. I'm like, no, you should not take the money because you have integrity.
You don't have to take every donation.
Now I don't trust you, bro. You know what I mean? There's certain developed names that if they take one penny from them or any of their businesses, I no longer trust them to work for me. And they make too many decisions. They make too many decisions at the city level involving these developers for me to trust them if they keep that money. Yeah. They should make a public show of rejecting it. That's what I would do.
Yeah.
So your primary opponent, he's a city commissioner sitting currently.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which obviously if he wins even the primary, he'd have to step away, right?
I don't know about the legalities of it, but he did voice that he would be leaving his position. I believe he meant if he were to win the general is what, but I don't know 100%.
You kind of have to, don't you? I don't know how busy a city council person is, right?
Yeah, it would take dedication. Have to come back every other Monday and every other Thursday, but I mean, that's what being a public servant's about, really.
How big is Parsons?
Our population, gosh, I'm awful. I want to say it's over 8,000 now. I think. I really don't know 100%. I'm little and there used to be like a sign at the corner of 32nd and Main that had like tens of thousands of however many people, and it's not that now.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm going to dig further in and see about the money in the races and all that. Maybe you can just replace him.
And I would run for that position. Serving the public's really all I care about. Like I said, if I lose, I'm still doing my public service.
Because you were already serving the public before with your nonprofit. You were already advocating and fighting for children before, just in your life and in your nonprofit. So it's like you just go back to helping the way you were and keep. And like I said, now you know a little bit more of the process, so you can. It has helped me to learn the process of the city government and the state government, so that I know when I'm talking to a rep that they're lying. They can do something. You know what I mean? They do have options, and they're choosing not to do them. Because if you don't know that, you don't know what they can do. When they say, oh, I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do, you can be like, well, actually, what you could do is blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But there's some things you just don't learn till you get into it.
Yeah. So, and it's a lot to learn.
How many people does it hold? How big is it?
It holds 9 people. 9
people. Is it full a lot or is it used a lot?
Yeah, it is, especially nowadays. Yeah.
Let's wrap up here. And I really wish you luck. And like I said, I'm going to get that together this weekend and post it probably Sunday about the new financials that have come out that I didn't have before when I did some of these articles. It's very important. And I want to know I'm curious myself, so I might as well share it with other people. That's how I've learned a lot of this, is if I didn't know this and wanted to know it, I'm sure there's other people that want to know it.
Yeah.
And I think that you're somebody like that is curious and is willing to keep an open mind and educate themselves and not just make a decision because some party told them to. You'd actually want to make sure that before you vote for something, it's something you truly want to put your name on, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. You got to understand the value of your vote. And that's one thing about voting too. You got to understand the value. I don't feel like enough people value their vote. It's when you vote for somebody, you then are basically approving everything they're going to do. So if they do some really bad things, then it's like, I don't want to say the blood is on your hands, because that's it couldn't be at like a federal level. It's not really that bad at the state level, but I'm just saying whatever they do is, I don't want to say your fault, but kind of your fault, because you voted for them, right? You gave them the seal of approval, you endorsed them with your vote. So I just vote, educate yourself on it. Don't just vote because they have the right letter, or you recognize their name, or because you think they have pretty eyes. Did you know people vote because of things like that?
When I see Kanye West on the ballot as having a bunch of write-ins, it makes me realize people vote for very different and unique reasons.
Here's the thing. If he had a bunch of write-ins, then what did he do? He motivated people to vote for him. I
Yeah.
bet you he won their vote. Yeah, like I said, I wanted to start a campaign. Maybe I'll do this next year. I wanted to start a campaign that was none of the above, because I want people to be able to have their voice still be heard, even if they don't like anybody that's up there. And so they just go in and write in none of the above. And so they're like, I want to vote for somebody, but not these people.
Yeah.
I also just think it would be funny because it's from Brewster's Million. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie,
I don't
but
think I have.
it's an 80s movie, so you're probably a little young for that. But yeah, just none of the above. Like, I don't want to vote for any of these people. And then if they got 5%, it would be on the actual rolls that none of the above got 6%. I think that would be hilarious.
It would.
But all right, well, I'm gonna wrap this up, let you go. Just any last message to voters going into the primary?
Just that your vote, like you said, it counts. I've heard so many people when I went around about the voter registration deadline, they're like, no, I'm not registered. I'm not going to. My vote doesn't count. When it comes to the state level elections, you can really see it, your vote matter. On the federal level, the numbers, the electoral college, I get feeling like it doesn't matter, definitely. But these local elections matter more than any of us realize.
Even the statewide elections, the attorney general, man lost by how many? Like 1 point something percent less. It wasn't very many. And it's a vote for vote count.
Yeah.
So it does count. Literally, they're like 1, 2, literally counts. So, all right. I hope they count more for you than for your opponent, and then they do it again in November.
Thank you.